Hey Charles, my name is Jordan, which is kind of annoying this question, but now that LeBron is the all-time leading scorer in NBA history with over 39,000 point careers, also ranking top 5 in assists and still climbing rankings in rebounds, blocks, and steals, all while consistently playing 20-plus seasons at an elite level for an old man, winning 4 championships, 4 MVPs, and making 19 All-NBA teams. Who is better, Jordan or LeBron?
You know, those are some incredible stats.
They are.
Those are some incredible stats. I'm never going to say anything bad about LeBron, I told you. I think he's the third best player I've ever seen play after Michael and Kobe. It's just different eras. I love LeBron. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. He didn't go to college for 3 years. You have to factor that in also. He had a 3-year head start on Michael. Okay, since you want me that. So, I'm gonna just give a couple of things about, if he wanted to do it fair, he would say, well, how many games did Michael Jordan play compared to LeBron? And actually, if you look at the numbers, Michael actually had 5,000 more points in his career, same number of games. 5,000, which is 2.5 NBA seasons. But you have to factor in, Michael went to college for 3 years. And if you remember, he broke his foot his first year, and he retired for 2 years. So if Michael went to the NBA 3 years sooner, not missed his rookie year with a broken foot, and not retired for 2 years, he would be the all-time leading scorer.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Did you ever look at how many shots Michael Jordan took and how many shots LeBron took?
I did not.
Michael Jordan.
They were both gunners.
Michael Jordan took way more shots.
Well, that was his job.
So
And let me tell you something. LeBron, we compare him favorable to Magic Johnson. He's more of a triple threat than Michael was. I'll agree with that. But let me ask you a question. I want you to be honest with me in your heart.
all right.
If you had one game and you said, I need to win game 7, would you want LeBron, Michael, or Kobe in one game win all?
LeBron.
Okay.
Let's go back to Cleveland.
Now that LeBron is the all-time leading scorer, who's better, Jordan or LeBron? A young fan asking Charles Barkley before a crowd. It's a question we've all heard, but every time it's asked, it splits the basketball world in two, because Jordan or LeBron is no longer a question. It's a cultural war. One side worships data, the other worships what their eyes have witnessed. The fan stood up, voice steady, proud, and overflowing with numbers. He listed them like ammunition. 39,000 points, top 5 in assists, top 10 in rebounds, blocks, steals, 20 elite seasons, 4 MVPs, 19 All-NBA selections. The statistics painted a portrait of a modern saint, a man who conquered time, age, and expectation. The crowd cheered, because in this era of analytics, LeBron James is the undisputed emperor of the spreadsheet. But in the front row, Charles Barkley sat still. No expression, no smirk, just the steady gaze of someone who had once looked Michael Jordan in the eyes. And then he took the mic, his voice low, raspy, and almost gentle, as if he were about to tell the truth no one was ready to hear. Those are some incredible stats. I love LeBron, but he's the third best player I've ever seen after Michael and Kobe. Silence. The room froze. The air stopped moving, because Barkley wasn't speaking like an analyst. He was speaking like a survivor. A witness from an era when greatness wasn't recorded in databases, but in scars, sweat, and the fear that filled the court when Jordan walked in. LeBron may have surpassed every number, but he will never surpass memory. And memory, especially Charles Barkley's, is something no statistic can reach. Barkley didn't get angry. He didn't mock or argue. He spoke slowly, like an old soldier recalling a battle the young only know from myths. I'm never going to say anything bad about LeBron, but I've seen Michael, and it's different. If Jordan was faith incarnate for the 1,990 seconds, then Barkley is the keeper of that faith. LeBron represents a world where greatness can be measured, but Michael Jordan represents a world where greatness can only be felt. The crowd expected fireworks. They thought Barkley would fight back, defend Jordan with pride, argue stats, bark like the man who once bullied giants in the paint. But Barkley didn't come to argue. He came to remind. "Those are some incredible stats," he said again. "I'm not going to say anything bad about LeBron. I love him." It wasn't sarcasm. It was grace, the kind of grace that only comes from someone who has seen both sides of greatness and knows how rare it truly is. That's what separated Charles Barkley from everyone else in that room. He didn't speak from emotion. He spoke from proximity to truth. He'd stood beside Jordan. He'd bled beside Jordan. He'd lost to Jordan. And that kind of experience gives you something no spreadsheet ever could: perspective. Because Barkley understood something the kid didn't. Stats tell you what a man did, but presence tells you who he was. LeBron's greatness is mathematical, consistent, measurable, undeniable. Jordan's greatness was existential. You didn't need to see the scoreboard to know it. You could feel it in your stomach, in the noise, in the fear that hung over the arena like smoke. That's why Barkley didn't need to raise his voice. The truth didn't require volume, it carried its own gravity. When Barkley said, "It's different," he wasn't talking about skill sets or eras. He was talking about energy, about the unspoken force that made grown men future Hall of Famers tremble before tip-off. He wasn't dismissing LeBron. He was protecting something sacred. He was guarding the myth made of muscle and mind that only those who lived through it can fully comprehend. To Barkley, debating Jordan with statistics was like trying to measure a lightning strike with a ruler. You could count the numbers, yes, but you'd miss the heat, the shock, the divine violence of it all. That's why he stayed calm, because you don't argue with children about fire when you've been burned by it yourself. He looked at the fan, young, passionate, confident in his data, and in that silence, you could almost hear what Barkley didn't say aloud. "Kid, you've seen highlights. I've seen history. LeBron's numbers speak loudly. Jordan's presence speaks forever." And in that moment, Barkley's calm wasn't weakness. It was authority. Because when you've played against the man who defined fear itself, you don't need to win an argument. You already survived Michael Jordan. Numbers don't tell the whole story. Charles Barkley leaned forward, his tone steady, no emotion, no ego, just math, but with meaning. He didn't go to college for 3 years. You have to factor that in. And suddenly, the room that once echoed with applause went quiet. Because this was where Barkley's experience became a blade. He wasn't debating, he was teaching. The fan had come armed with data. LeBron, the all-time leading scorer, the all-time minutes played, top 5 in assists, top 10 in rebounds. But Barkley had something stronger: context. Jordan played 3 years in college, not as a bench warmer, but as a national champion. 3 years of dominance before he ever stepped foot in the NBA. 3 years that LeBron never needed to prove himself because his era was built on projection, not proof. Then Barkley added the quiet dagger. Michael actually had 5,000 more points in his career in the same number of games. 5,000. That's 2.5 NBA seasons of scoring, erased by time and by choice. Because Jordan wasn't forced to stop. He walked away twice. Once to heal. Once to breathe. Once because he'd conquered everything there was to conquer. He broke his foot, his rookie year. He retired for 2. And he still came back and ruled the league like time itself waited for him. Barkley didn't raise his voice, he didn't have to. The arithmetic was brutal enough. If Jordan had entered the NBA 3 years earlier, if he hadn't lost a rookie season to injury, if he hadn't retired twice in his prime, he wouldn't just lead the all-time scoring list. He would have ended the debate forever. But Barkley wasn't here to glorify what if. He was reminding everyone why it never mattered. Because Jordan didn't need 20 seasons to make you remember him. He needed 13. In that time, he rewrote the physics of competition. He didn't accumulate greatness. He compressed it. He played fewer games, took fewer years, and still left a mark that refuses to fade 3 decades later. LeBron's story is longevity. Jordan's story is intensity. LeBron stretched greatness across time. Jordan collapsed time inside greatness. That's why Barkley's words carried the weight of finality. He wasn't comparing eras, he was contrasting human limits. Jordan didn't just play within them. He redefined where they ended. If Michael hadn't retired, he'd be the all-time leading scorer. Barkley said matter-of-factly. It wasn't arrogance. It was arithmetic baptized by memory, and in that moment, the stats that once sounded so invincible, 39,000 points, 20 seasons, 19 All-NBAs, suddenly felt small. Because no matter how long you count, eternity isn't measured in numbers, it's measured in the silence that follows a name. And when Charles Barkley said, "Michael," that silence said everything. LeBron didn't go to college. He had a 3-year head start. Charles Barkley. That line wasn't just correction, it was revelation. Because when Barkley said it, he wasn't comparing two men. He was reminding everyone that time had been unfairly kind to the argument. You can't measure Jordan the way you measure LeBron. Because Jordan didn't live inside time, time lived inside him. LeBron's greatness is built on endurance, a body engineered to defy aging. Jordan's greatness was built on eruption, a mind and will that refused to obey limits. Barkley wasn't diminishing LeBron. He was clarifying the truth. Longevity is a gift, but impact, true, permanent impact, is a miracle. LeBron stretched excellence over decades. Jordan condensed eternity into 13 years. That's why the comparison always feels wrong. Because how do you measure something that changed the meaning of measurement itself? Jordan's greatness didn't grow slowly, it arrived fully formed. It didn't need 20 years to evolve. It needed one moment, that tongue out, that hang time, that impossible shot that made time stop and humanity gasp. LeBron's dominance is cumulative. Jordan's was atomic. It exploded, once, and the shockwave is still being felt. And that's what Barkley understood better than anyone in that room. Jordan's career wasn't about how much he played. It was about how completely he consumed the era he played in. In the 90 seconds, there was no space that didn't belong to him. He wasn't a player in the league, he was the league. His presence made others legitimate. His victories defined everyone else's losses. His failures became mythology. That's what Barkley meant when he said, "It's different." It's not different because of stats. It's different because Jordan changed the vibration of basketball itself. He didn't compete for greatness. He created it, molded it, and left it behind as a standard no one can escape. LeBron's era lives in numbers. Jordan's era lives in memory. And that's why every time someone brings up stats, the debate quietly collapses. Because even if LeBron's career lasts forever, he will always be chasing a ghost that doesn't live in data. It lives in a feeling. The feeling of seeing something so pure, so ruthless, so undeniable, that it reprograms your understanding of excellence. That's what Barkley was defending, not a man, not a jersey, not nostalgia. He was defending truth. The kind of truth that doesn't care about eras, rules, or algorithms. The kind of truth you can't debate, because once you've seen it, you know. It's not about who scored more, Barkley could have said. It's about who changed the world more. And in that sense, Jordan didn't just win. He reset the scoreboard, the battle between greatness and longevity. LeBron's more of a triple threat, more like Magic Johnson. Charles Barkley, that one sentence carried both respect and separation, because Barkley wasn't denying LeBron's greatness, he was defining its shape. LeBron is the architect of longevity, a 20-year testament to discipline, recovery, evolution. He plays every position, fills every role, and touches every part of the stat sheet. He is basketball's great continuum, the man who never stops. But Jordan wasn't a continuum. He was a singularity. Where LeBron expands, Jordan collapses. Where LeBron endures, Jordan erupts. He doesn't spread greatness across time, he concentrates it until it becomes unbearable. LeBron is like a symphony, composed, layered, elegant. Jordan is a lightning strike, immediate, violent, divine. That's what Barkley was saying between the lines. You can't compare two different elements of nature. LeBron is time's greatest student. Jordan is time's greatest enemy. Barkley said it softly. But the truth behind it roared. It's just different eras. Different physics, different realities, different meanings of what it means to be the best. LeBron's genius is that he's survived everything. The mileage, the pressure, the spotlight, the critics, and remained elite for 2 decades. He is the master of sustainability. But Jordan's genius was that he made time irrelevant. He burned so bright, so fast, so completely, that even when he disappeared, the game still revolved around his absence. LeBron showed us that greatness can last. Jordan showed us that greatness can consume. LeBron built an empire. Jordan built a religion. That's why Barkley's tone never carried hostility, just inevitability. He knows LeBron's resume is longer, heavier, beautifully written. But Jordan's resume is carved into mythology, because Barkley lived it the sleepless nights before playing him, and the way every game against Jordan felt like standing under judgment. He knows what the numbers can't tell you, that Jordan's greatness wasn't about how much he did. It was about how completely he owned every moment he was in. LeBron is a legend built on time. Jordan is a legend built on impact. LeBron's story is a novel. Jordan's story is a gospel. And when Barkley smiled after comparing them, it wasn't mockery. It was recognition. Because deep down, even he knew, you can play 20 seasons, you can rewrite the record books, you can conquer time itself, but you can't outlive Michael Jordan. The final question, and the silence that ended the debate: if you had one game, Game 7, and you had to win, would you take LeBron, Michael, or Kobe? Charles Barkley. The fan hesitated, just for a second. You could see it in his eyes. That tiny flicker of doubt, the instinct that statistics couldn't erase. Then he said it, LeBron. And Barkley smiled. Not in mockery, not in anger, just a small, knowing smile. The kind of smile only a man who's seen truth up close can wear. Okay, he said quietly. Let's go back to Cleveland. The audience laughed, but beneath the laughter, you could feel it, that sting of realization, because Barkley wasn't trying to humiliate the kid. He was simply showing him how far the conversation had drifted from reality. In Barkley's world, Game 7 isn't theory. It's memory. He's lived those nights when pressure thickened the air, when every breath felt like a gamble, when only the strongest minds survived. And in that world, there is no question. Because Barkley knows, he's seen the answer where number 23. Jordan wasn't built for the long game. He was built for the moment where fear and glory collide, where all the noise disappears, and the entire planet waits for one man to decide how history will remember it. That's why Barkley didn't argue. He didn't need to. Because the debate always dies in the same place, under pressure. And in that place, Jordan was flawless. When Barkley asked the question, he was really asking something deeper. When everything is on the line, who do you trust with your soul? It's not about points. It's not about seasons. It's about that split second when the ball leaves his hand. And you know, absolutely know, it's going in. That's not something numbers can describe. That's faith. And faith was what Michael Jordan built his empire on. So when the fans said, LeBron, and Barkley simply smiled, it wasn't condescension, it was closure. Because you can explain everything about LeBron. You can't explain Jordan. You can only feel him. And in that silence after the laughter, you could almost hear it. The faint echo of that truth that refuses to fade. When it matters most, the world still belongs to Michael Jordan. The game was over long ago. When the laughter faded, so did the illusion of argument. Because in that quiet, everyone in the room, even the fan, knew the truth. The game they were debating had already been decided decades ago. LeBron's resume will keep growing. His numbers will keep climbing. The record books will stretch to fit his story. And yet, no matter how high the numbers go, they will always sit in a shadow that cannot be erased. That shadow is Michael Jordan. Charles Barkley never raised his voice that night. He didn't need to. He spoke like a man standing at the edge of history, watching new generations dig through data, trying to quantify a force that was never meant to be measured. He wasn't protecting Jordan's ego. He was protecting context. He was defending the truth that greatness isn't something you accumulate. It's something you embody. LeBron's greatness is mathematical, undeniable, structured, consistent. Jordan's greatness is spiritual. It possesses you. It's not something you can explain, it's something you witness. That's why Barkley's final smile felt so heavy, because he understood what most fans never will, that greatness has two forms, one that ages and one that doesn't. LeBron's greatness will age beautifully. Records, longevity, excellence across decades. But Jordan's greatness lives outside of time. He doesn't need updates or milestones or validation. He exists in the eternal present, in every highlight, every replica sneaker, every kid who still sticks his tongue out mid-layup without knowing why. That's not nostalgia. That's imprint. Jordan isn't remembered, he's relived. Every generation rediscovers him, and every generation tries to debate him, only to end up in the same place Charles Barkley stood that night, facing a truth that doesn't move. Some players break records, Barkley could have said, but some players become the record. LeBron's story is about longevity, a man who stretched greatness across time. Jordan's story is about intensity, a man who made time kneel before him. That's the difference Barkley understood. LeBron is greatness you admire. Jordan is greatness you feel. And when history looks back, it won't ask who scored more or who played longer. It will ask, who made the world stop? And that answer, like it always has been, will whisper through the silence that follows Barkley's words. The game was over long ago. Jordan didn't just win. He ended the debate before it ever began.